day, evening, whatever. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Daily Rocket. It is January 25th, 2016. We are fresh off of a week away. A little bit of a week, well, not a week away. We're fresh off a few days away, of course. The weekend came and went. And now we are ready to talk about this past weekend in Rocket League eSports, like we usually do. So, as you know, my name is Shalthus. This is our little home on the internet, and we've got a lot to talk about. So, a lot of very interesting results this past week. Some results that maybe aren't as interesting or unexpected, so to say. But suffice it to say, we've got a lot on our plates. I think that's the agenda here. So good to see everybody in, ready to talk about stuff. So we're going to start off by talking about some ESL before we get into the Pro League. Of course, we always finish with the Pro League because it's very in-depth. We'll talk about not only this past week's results, we'll take a look at the standings and stats, and we'll also get into Week 4, and we'll talk about the upcoming schedule, what we can expect, and what sort of results we may see. So, without any further ado, let's get into our action here. So, kicking things off. Wrong thing. There we go. Good start. There we go. Okay. So we'll start off with ESL NA. Here is what happened this past Sunday during the NA Cup number 26 for ESL. Final 8 teams wound up being Turbulence, Jarizo's Goodies, Divine Entity, Spectacular Outlaws, Avidity Esports, Foremost, Moonmen, and Weebs on Wheels. So, basically, with the NA ESL, it seems to be a great spot for a lot of these teams who are outside of the Pro League to really get a chance to try and show up a bit. And, you know, earn some ranking, at least establish themselves a bit. This particular week's ESL was won by a team that may not be official and really may not be around beyond this weekend. Jarizo's Goodies consisted of Magic Goodies, Rizzo, and a third member whose name I cannot remember right now, so I feel bad about that. Excuse me. But the idea is that, you know, this is a team that I don't think Rizzo's looking to join a team full-time, so this may not be a permanent thing, but in any event, they would pick up the win. And if we take a look at some of the teams who would win and lose throughout this final round of 8, basically, we can see Foremost manages to make it to the finals after taking out Moonmen, as well as Avidity Esports, formerly Voltage. We can see Weebs on Wheels fell to Moonmen. Divine Entity, a very surprising 0-3 loss to Spectacular Outlaws. And of course, Turbulence fall in the quarterfinals to the eventual winners. So this was your final 8 for the NA ESL, and congratulations go to Jarizo's Goodies for their big ESL win. Now let's see if they stick around. They have a pretty solid squad there if they made it all the way to the finals against some pretty interesting opponents. So I give them credit for that. We'll see if they can make it through. So moving on to EU. Go for Rocket League Europe Cup number 26. Here are your final 8 Three Musketeers. Premature Evacuation. Anavia RL. Nope. Firewall, Victorious Bastards, yep, and Team Rocket. So, the interesting things to take away from here. Premature Evacuation, that is Lunation, Scrubkilla, and Enderu. Those were the 3 members of that team. I think another one of those temporary squads that the Lunation and Scrubkilla are feeling out here. I don't know how permanent that's going to be, so until we see them again, we're just going to treat them as a one-off situation. But this was the week that belonged to Anavia RL because their performance not only got them past the Three Musketeers, a longtime mainstay in the top 10 in Europe, but also past Premature Evacuation, which consists of 3 premier players in Europe from various teams. And ultimately they'd make it to the finals against Team Rocket. Team Rocket looking for that back-to-back repeat ESL win, but they just could not hold off Anavia, and they managed to take the series 4-1, so a big win for Anavia RL, and they will win their first ESL. So I'm looking forward to seeing next week's ESL result to see which teams manage to make it to the finals, if Team Rocket can fight their way back and maybe reclaim another ESL title. But in the meantime, some very interesting results all around. So there is your European ESL summarization. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. So with that recap of ESL, I think now we're going to take just a brief moment and let's take a look. Not a brief moment. Let's take a look at this past week's results in the RLC Pro League. Here are your Week 3 results for these Week 3 matchups. On the European side, we saw Spectral fall 1-4 to Supersonic Avengers, who are clearly making a large comeback following their first week just thrashing at the hands of Crown and Jewels. MyXMG would take the series ever so slightly against Noble Esports in a 3-2 set, giving them a good position going forward. And Flipside Tactics 4-1 over the current #1, still #1 team in the league, Crown and Jewels. So Flipside Tactics, we'll talk about that match in just a minute. NA region, SNK Apollo did not have much to offer as IBP Cosmic would get another shutout victory here in the Pro League, 5-0. In a very surprising result, failure to launch takes the set 3-2 against Not. And another fairly surprising one as well, Kings of Urban completely shutting down Orange Creamsicle 5-0. So there is your set. Now let's focus on some of these games in particular, at least the ones that are particularly surprising to me. Now the first one, Spectral versus Supersonic Avengers, not quite as surprising as it may seem. Obviously, Supersonic Avengers riding a lot of momentum off of their previous week's win. They did the same result against SK Gaming and had a very good result. So, not too surprising. Obviously, Spectral has a lot of things they need to work out in order to start picking up some wins here, because they're in a very difficult division. You know, if we had a thing called strength of schedule, it'd be pretty heavy in the EU region. On the other end, MyXMG taking out Noble Esports. Really, that's not too surprising. Both of those teams are fairly comparable, very even in terms of their competition, and the fact that MyXMG just edged them out, you know, we had to have a winner here. So, I think if this series kept on, we might see another tie. I do know that MyXMG managed to win 3 in a row on the 3 last games, but a very fair result, I think, here. So let's talk about the obvious elephant in the room, so to say. Flipside Tactics going 4-1 over Crown and Jewels. So, this result was only surprising to me because I wasn't sure where Flipside was at as far as a team. If we look back on the Pro League, their first week, they dropped 2 games to Spectral. Next week, they dropped a couple games as well. So, and that was to Noble, I believe. Now this week, I was wondering, okay, are they going to be able to hang against a team who has been basically undefeated throughout this entire Pro League and has beaten some pretty solid teams in their process? It seems as though Flipside has awoken. You know, kind of the Kraken has been unleashed, whatever it may be. But it seems that Flipside is at least very close back to their fighting form that we know them so well for being. And they played a great strategy that kept Crown and Jewels from being able to really do much of anything. The biggest thing is that Flipside knew how to prevent giving Crown and Jewels the space they needed to do what they usually do, and they shut it down pretty consistently. So, an obvious big lopsided win here. It's pretty clear what this means in terms of power rankings, so we'll talk about that, of course, on Wednesday. But a big win for Flipside Tactics, and they are very, very close to taking over that #1 spot in the Pro League, and we'll show those stats and everything in just a bit. But for now, let's take a look at NA. So, first result, I am a little surprised by this. A 5-0 win for Cosmic over SNK Apollo. The reason I'm so surprised by that is Apollo is not a bad team. by any stretch. And while I didn't expect them to take the majority of the series, I thought maybe a game or two, at least a game. But apparently this is the Cosmic show right now, and I think their only major competition in the league as it stands now is Kings of Urban. So a big win for them. And of course, Kings of Urban, as I just mentioned, with the 5-0 win over Orange Creamsicle, very surprised by that. I had a lot of pretty high hopes for Orange Creamsicle, and I thought they were going to be able to come back into this and, again, take a couple games or so. But this is a very strong Kings of Urban team who's not going to let anybody other than Cosmic really test them. Now, Not gave them a good run in the first week, going 3-2, but the difficult thing now is we really need to see the 1 and 2. We need to see Cosmic versus Kings. That's the thing that's going to help us determine how the rest of this season is going to go. So, as it stands right now, obviously Kings and Cosmic both separating themselves from the rest of the pack, essentially, with a couple of big 5-0 wins in their history. Now, the final match, which really surprised me. This was probably the most surprising result, in my opinion, based off of what we've seen so far. Failure to Launch taking 3 games off of Never on Target. Now, this is really surprising for the fact that Failure to Launch had previously been winless. I almost said undefeated. They'd been winless. They were 0-10 going into Week 3 here. They'd lost 5 games to Cosmic and 5 games to Kings of Urban. I was hoping they would finally pick up a win here, but the fact that they took the set is very impressive, and this is a clear example of why Failure to Launch belongs in the Pro League. I didn't want a case where we had a team that you could look back and say, oh, they weren't really Pro League level, they shouldn't have been there. Excuse me. This wasn't the case. With Failure to Launch, they are clearly a team that belongs in the Pro League. They earned it, and they took out the number 3 team in North America in a 3-2 set. That's extremely impressive. But what does that say about Not? Because obviously Not hasn't yet to take a set in the Pro League. They lost 2-3 to Kings of Urban in Week 1. They lost 1-4 to Cosmic in Week 2. And now they couldn't even beat Failure to Launch, who had yet to win a single game. So, I obviously have some concerns for Not. I'm wondering exactly what to expect out of them and where they're going to really go from here. But we have a lot more Pro League to go. There's at least 4 more weeks of the regular... Well, there is 4 more weeks of the regular season, plus the All-Star game, then the playoffs. So there's a lot coming up. But the issue here is just, that's a very interesting result in my opinion. I did not expect Not to have lost this set, to be perfectly honest. I kind of expected them to lose to Cosmic and Kings because that's how they fell in the overall rankings. They've lost to Cosmic before, so that's not a huge shocker. But the fact that they lost to Failure to Launch as well, at least dropping 3 games to them, is a big issue. So hopefully they can come out of this, regroup, get back into this, and deal with the rest of their stuff. And we'll take a look at next week's schedule, and we'll see which teams are on bye and which matchups we have in store. But for now, let's take a look at the standings and the statistics. We'll start with the North American region. Here is your current standings for the region. So you're going to see the same kind of picture at the very, very top of the standings in NA, just like you do in EU. Or flip that. You'll see the same thing in EU, just like you're seeing now in NA. But the point being, of course, Cosmic still at the very top of the list with a plus 26 goal differential and 14-1 in terms of their win-loss record. So only one team has managed to take a game off of Cosmic, and of course that has been Not. So, bit of an issue there. Kings of Urban, though, hot on their heels, 13-2. So we could see a changing of the guard next week, depending on the matches and the results. Plus 30 goal differential. So obviously Kings of Urban has been very much outshooting and outscoring their opponents pretty significantly. And we can also see they hold on to the best shot percentage in the NA region right now, 0.41%. So very on target are the results for Kings of Urban. Now, as it stands right now, the rest of the division, Nexus eSports coming in third place with a 5-5 record. They, of course, had the bye this past week, so they're only 10 games in. Never on target, though. 5-10 is their current setup. And they are at a negative 13 goal differential. So obviously their biggest hurdle right now is simply not putting goals away. They only have 26 total goals across 15 games. And that is only slightly more than Nexus, who has 24 across 10. So offensively, they're just getting shut down completely. Thus, this result so far. Orange Creamsicle, who are 10 games into the season, is 3-7 with a negative 13 goal differential. Again, they're very close to the same kind of production in terms of goals as Never on Target across 5 less games. So OC, having that 0-5 loss was certainly a big setback, but we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes. Failure to Launch, as we said, had come into Week 3 with an 0-10 scoreline, but they did manage to pick up 3 wins against Never on Target, so that puts them at 3-12. Which slightly edges out SNK Apollo, who's currently at 2-8. So there's your current lineup. Obviously, things will normalize a bit as the regular season winds down. Of course, the biggest hurdle here being that some teams have only played 10 games, some have played 15. But of course, by Week 7, everybody will have played their entire schedule, and we'll get the final standings to see how teams go into the playoffs. So biggest thing right now, well, they also have more assists. But those are, all these stats are good to have and very useful, but obviously the one that matters the most is wins to losses. That win-loss ratio is the only thing the primary thing that will determine your standing in the Pro League. Next in line, of course, is head-to-head. So the result of Kings versus Cosmic when we get that matchup, I think will help us get a lot of insight into the rest of this Pro League, because I expect these two teams to be fairly neck and neck throughout. So there's your NA standings and stats. Let's take a look at EU. Here is your EU division, and again, a very similar picture at the top of the list. Crown and Jewels with an 11-4 record due to their 4-1 loss against Flipside, and Flipside hot on their heels at 10-5. We can see the score differential not quite as lopsided as it is in NA, plus 14 for C&J, plus 15 for Flipside. We edge down a bit, Supersonic Avengers with an 8-7 win-loss record right now. They are coming in at third. MyXMG breaking even at 5-5. Noble Esports 4-6. So those two teams, of course, only have played 10 games so far. Same with SK Gaming, who had their off week this week, 4-6. And Spectral, unfortunately, holding down the bottom of the list here with a 3-12 win-loss record right now. So it looks like the EU division a little bit closer, a little bit harder to get those big breakaway teams here. But again, the top of the chart is a very similar picture to NA. While the win-loss ratios are different, it's only really one game away from going into a tie situation. But we've already seen Crown and Jewels versus Flipside, so we know how that's going. So the issue right now is how these teams do the rest of the Pro League. And it comes down to how they beat the other teams in the league and how they can pick up some more results. So Crown and Jewels, aside from their series against Flipside, has a track record of pretty dominating showings against other teams. That could be enough to really propel them or secure them that number one spot. But being number one is great and all, however, you still have to win the playoffs. And that's where things might get a little bit tricky when Crown and Jewels and Flipside, Crown and Jewels in particular, as we've seen this week, not only has to deal with Flipside, but they'll also have to deal with the likes of Cosmic and Kings of Urban, who are both very dominant teams respectively. So, pretty sizable showing here, and a very interesting Week 3 statistical sheet. If we break down some of the other stats, Crown and Jewels still holding on to having the best shot percentage in the league with a .44. They were above 50% for the first 2 weeks, but of course their series against Flipside Tactics definitely held them back, and they lost the overall goal advantage as well. So big lopsided performance for Flipside Tactics puts them at 52 goals and a plus 15 goal differential. But pretty good results so far. Save percentage very high, or shot total very high for Supersonic Avengers, who continues to be a Gatling gun of rocket balls. By 149 total shots on net, almost 10 per game, and 9.9 is the total there. So very offensively minded. Now to see if they can continue that streak and get some pretty big wins, let's take a look at our Week 4 schedule, and that will be this Sunday at twitch.tv/Rocket League Central. Here is your schedule for Week 4. In the European region, Flipside Tactics will be getting another matchup against MyXMG, who comes in off of a 3-2 win over Noble eSports. So they will get that showing. SK Gaming makes their return to take on Spectral, who is currently holding down the bottom of the list. And then Noble eSports going up against Crown and Jewels. So, based off everything we've seen so far, Crown and Jewels probably in the better situation in that particular matchup. But it is going to depend how their morale is. How are they looking mentally? Do they think that they can recover mentally to get back into that game and continue their dominant performance from the first few weeks? So, of course, based off of this, the team that is taking the break this week is Supersonic Avengers. So they will have a chance to recover for the week, get their bye week, and come back and hopefully have a slightly better showing. Same can be said for Cosmic in the NA region. They're taking the week off. And if we look here in Week 4, Nexus coming back to take on Kings of Urban in what is probably going to be a very dominant showing by the Kings of Urban once again. I don't expect Nexus to hold them off, considering Orange Creamsicle couldn't either. Apollo will be going up against Not. So this is a chance for Not to start to gain a little bit of ground. They need to recover here and hopefully take a series. They really need to take a series here. And when it comes to dealing with SNK, or when it comes to dealing with Apollo, I should say, then they're going to have a bit of a difficult time, potentially difficult time. Finally, Orange Creamsicle going up against Failure to Launch. So as it stands here, this could be a little bit interesting because Failure to Launch riding some nice momentum off of last week's performance. They're going to go up against OC, and OC obviously on the downswing, dealing with an 0-5 loss to Kings of Urban. So that could be a good point for Failure to Launch to recover a bit here and earn a few more wins in this league. I don't expect there to be a shutout here based off what we've seen so far. So, some interesting stuff, but there you go. There is your lineup. And that is your schedule for Week 4 of the Pro League. And we will see how that all pans out. Once again, it's going to be this Sunday, taking place at 1 p.m. Eastern, only at twitch.tv/Rocket League Central. Now, another event that is coming up that may shape up the EU division a little bit. Shake up the NA division a little bit. Is the upcoming Gfinity Invitational Tournament. So, for anybody who's not familiar with this, let me get you the specific details so we can talk about that. But Gfinity has an invitational tournament that is coming up on Saturday, January 30th. We have 8 of the top teams in Europe. That includes Flipside Tactics, SK Gaming, Noble eSports, Crown and Jewels, MyXMG, Supersonic Avengers, Team Rocket, and Spectral. So basically, the entire Pro League participating here, as well as Team Rocket, who I will say has had a bit of an upswing recently, with finishing in the top or in the finals of ESL for the last several weeks and having pretty decent showings in Gfinity. They should make a very good 8th team here, and that will be brought to you across a couple different streams. Now, I'm going to be shoutcasting this alongside Roken, and of course, Freezing Wolves and Shogun will be bringing you the primary stream, and should be some pretty good stuff. But that is going to be the Gfinity Invitational. That takes place on Saturday, starting at 5 p.m. GMT. So that is about noon Eastern for anybody who's around on Saturday, noon Eastern, and calculate that to your own time zone from there. But it should be good. It's a £450 prize pool. 300 pounds go to first place, 150 to second place. And yeah, just overall good stuff. And I'm looking forward to that tournament. I think it's going to be good. And of course, we'll have usual repercussions for the power rankings for that week to see how things shake up a bit for that and the Pro League. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is your recap of esports in Rocket League for this week, at least. We'll, of course, be back next week to do it all over again. That's just how it works. But, with any event, apparently, I'm reading something that says Twitch is down, but I'm still up. Can we all... If you can see me, I guess we're good. But, anyway, you know the usual routine now. Going to open up the floor to Q&A. So if you have any questions about this past week in esports, about the power rankings, the game itself, whatever, anything you want to ask about, now is the time. So let's do it. As you can see, I finally got my Gird Your Loins shirt, so I'm rocking that. Finally came in. Took a while, but I got it, and that's the important thing. So, anyway, with that being said, so yeah, doors open. Let's do it. Q&A, whatever you may want to ask, go ahead and do it. Oh, Viscar! Thank you very much for the subscription. For 2 months in a row. Nicely done. Welcome to the Shal Pals. Glad to have you on the team. I don't know why that's not updating. Oh, maybe because it was a resubscription. I don't know. Either way, my updater is not being very friendly right now. Anyway. Oh, prediction for the Invitational? No, I can talk about that now. That's absolutely good. So, I don't know what the bracket looks like. I don't think they've made the full bracket yet. Yeah, there's no bracket yet, so that makes it a little harder to know exactly how I think things will pan out. But, as it stands right now, I gotta give the nod to Flipside. I mean, how can I not? You know, this is only 1 week away. It's gonna take place this Saturday. So, how can I say that Flipside will not be able to beat the rest of the pack when they have had such a solid track record? So, you know, I certainly think that Flipside will probably take this tournament. How was the shoutcasting practice? I think it went alright. I mean, we couldn't talk about it at the time because we were waiting on this announcement to go out, but this was why we were practicing for the Gfinity Invitational. It's one of the only times I may be shoutcasting with Roken, just based off of how our schedule looks, but who knows what the future holds. But yeah, I will be working alongside him for Gfinity Invitational. We will host down one stream, I guess the B stream, so to say, and the primary stream will be, Freezing Wolves and Shogun, to the best of my knowledge. But either way, I'm going to be there casting as much of the event as they'll throw at me. So, I'll have more information about specifically where this is all going to be. I'm pretty sure it'll be on Roken's channel, which is twitch.tv/Roken91. So, we will gather up together and do all that fun stuff on Saturday. So, it's good times. But yeah, in any event, definitely I'm looking at Flipside will probably take this, barring some kind of shocking results. It's really just an event that Gfinity wanted to hold. Something to really kind of celebrate the Rocket League season they've had so far. Kind of invite some of the teams who have been a long-standing part of the Gfinity scene. And, you know, just do something big and special. And hopefully we'll get a lot of people who turn out to watch it. I think that's the big takeaway here, is we want to try to draw in as many viewers as possible across both streams to get some interest in these games. There's, like I said, it's going to be the best teams in Europe all competing in a single one-day double elimination tournament for a pretty nice prize pool. So, 450-pound prize pool, that's 300 pounds to the first place winner, 150 to second place. It's going to be good. So whether you watch me shoutcasting with Roken or Freezing Wolves and Shogun, whatever, as long as you get the good games and enjoy yourself, I hope you tune in to check that out. And again, that is going to be this Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT. That is noon Eastern for us in North America, and you can scale that back however you need to. But as it stands right now, I think it's just a one-time thing, but depending on how successful it is and depending on how successful future cups are, it could mean more. But as it stands right now, it is just currently a one-time thing. So try to turn out as much as you can. Let's enjoy this. Yep, so yeah, 6 o'clock CET, 5 GMT, noon Eastern, etc., etc. But it is obviously an EU-based tournament, but like I said, you've got some amazing teams in this, so if you're a fan of competitive Rocket League and you're not watching this tournament, you're going to be disappointing yourself, for sure. I don't know what the IRCL playoffs are going to be like. I don't even know when they're going to take place or anything like that. I'm hoping that it will merge the two divisions together. I know that's what the Pro League will be doing. So the RLC Pro League does that. It's basically going to be the top 4 teams of each division who meet in an 8-team double elim. I'm pretty sure it's double elim format for the playoffs. But the playoffs in RLC Pro League should be fairly in-depth, and they may even take place over the course of 2 days. So, a lot in store. But, in any event, I don't know what IRCL is doing, though. I like what we're getting in Rocket League. The thing that I want to see for Rocket League is there were too many teams that are just kind of slapdash thrown together teams, so to say, between some folks who play together. Like Brazen Boys today, it was 2/3 Kings of Urban with Remco, which made a great team. They ended up winning the whole thing. And I don't mind that, but I would really like to see some of the established teams get involved here. And I'm hoping we really start to see that with the Championship Series by Rocket League, which takes place on February 13th. That's Saturday. It's going to have a $500 prize pool. It takes place, I believe, starting at around the same time as usual, 5 p.m. Sign-ups are open. If you go to rocketchamps.com, you can sign up either as a whole team, you can sign up individually and get paired with random additional solo sign-ups. And it's got a great prize pool. And the thing about that is that Rocket League takes place every Saturday, has a better prize pool than ESL, and has typically better competition. So I'd love to see teams like Cosmic and Kings and all these other top teams. Team Knot, I know Knot's going to be involved in the Championship Series, because Low5 told me when he was casting with me on Saturday. But the point is that I want to see a lot of these teams participate, because there's not a lot of events in NA like there is for EU. EU has Gfinity, EU has eSports Wall, EU has all this other stuff that they can use to not only help us with power rankings, but also to give teams more time to play and more competitions. But there's not a lot with NA, and Rocket League's hoping to fill that void that NA doesn't currently have. So I would really like to see, on the NA side, more teams playing in Rocket League. The $100 ones, the $500 ones, whatever it might be, just get involved in it, play in these events, and heck, I'll be shoutcasting it, so I'll be there. I won't be there, obviously, next Saturday because I'm doing this Gfinity thing. I was invited to do Gfinity before I joined up with Rocket League, so they understand professional obligation. I wanted to honor my obligation to Gfinity, but from every Saturday going forward from there, I'll be shoutcasting alongside, who knows? I cast with Low5 this past Sunday. Wow, that's not even a day. This past Saturday, I cast with Low5. I'll be casting with more individuals going forward. So, yeah, I mean, I want to see more teams involved, especially the power ranking teams. You know, all of those teams I'd love to see get involved in Rocket League. It's a chance to get more time playing, more competition, and have more stuff that we can use for rankings. My thoughts about Scandinavian players? The particular players you mentioned right now are all fantastic. You know, I always thought Linkaru was a fantastic player on UMI Zero, and the few times I've seen him on other teams since, he's always stood out. So, you know, he's excellent in that regard. Jazer, a great component of SK Gaming. You know, I think he and his teammates, while they do still have some work to do, hopefully this week away has given them some time to regroup, practice a bit, and hopefully come into next week's RPL with a bit of a better showing than the 1-4 that they had against Supersonic. Sniper Kid, you know, again, great individual, part of my XNG, who had a nice showing this week. Yeah, I mean, they're all fantastic players. Apparently Twitch did go down, but a lot of people were still here and I was still up, so I don't know. I don't know what happened. But, you know, in any event. Cool. Well, hopefully nobody refreshed and we got involved. So, anyway. So as a lot of you may have seen, or may know by now, even if you don't, I'll tell you, Apollo has parted ways with SNK. They've elected not to continue with the team, or with the organization. So that means that we are on the hunt for a new team. Well, in particular, I am on the hunt for a team. Not an org, I am still with SNK, but I'm looking for a team to bring on board. And I'm going to be looking around, doing my scouting to see what I can find. But I wanted to at least let you know what the situation was. That's why things were kind of quiet on the front, because I knew what was... I knew this was coming before I even joined SNK. I did it because I felt that having a chance to try and find a new team without starting with a team that maybe didn't want to be a part of SNK, we can try and go from there. So, you know, that's something I'm going to be trying to work on, and I will hopefully have more information for you in due time. But anyway, let's go back to the chat and see what the questions are. What would happen if ESPN did choose to have Rocket League as an esport to feature? I think it would be great. It would be a lot more exposure, be a chance to, you know, reveal the Rocket League competitive scene to a lot of people who may not know it exists. It's not the big boom we're going to need. That has to come from Psyonix, but it'll be great. It'd be a good start. Are there any good Danish players? I don't know them all personally. Then again, that's my thing. I don't know the nationalities or the home countries of a lot of different players. But yeah, I know Fisho is. Fisho I do know. So yeah, he's probably one of the best. Though he's been kind of quiet on the competitive scene for a while. Anywho. Hey CJ. Welcome. We're doing open Q&A right now. So if you have any questions about the competitive scene, about this past week in competitive Rocket League, about the Pro League, about the power rankings, whatever, now's a good time to ask away. Who's better, Crodovi or Cooksier? a hard question. They're both very similar in so many ways to how competitive they are and the type of style they play in. When Cookseer is less about being flashy, he can be very effective. It's still fun to watch him freestyle, but certainly when he focuses more on the, just legitimately playing, which he has done several times, many times, again, he's very effective. Oh, thank you very much. I like trying to do these streams. I try to do this every single day, at least the Daily Rocket, to talk about the competitive scene and everything like that. What do I think about higher profile players? There we go. Hold on. Higher profile players being subs on teams as well as having their own team, like A-Money with Moonmen and Cosmic. I mean, as the scene stands right now, it's such a small scene that you kind of have to... You have a very small pool of players to choose from. There aren't a lot of players who can act as subs who aren't signed to play for other teams, or who aren't playing for other teams. So I think that's just the nature of the beast. You know, as the scene gets bigger and players start getting more lucrative deals or actual contracts or things that they can sign as a sub, then you'll start seeing that. But for now, this is really the only option. What do you think was the defining factor in Flipside's dominant showing against CJ? So, my opinion on that is the biggest thing is when you let Crown and Jewels have the time and space they need to orchestrate the plays they do, because they're big on the teamwork. They're big on putting together very good back and forth plays and setting up their teammates. When you don't give them that space, when you shut them down and apply a lot of pressure to them, they fold. And that's what Flipside did. They didn't give them the room and the time to do what they do. And they completely shut that down. So that was the biggest factor. They just approached that series as good as it gets. And obviously they clicked into their normal gear of being a premier EU team, the premier EU team, and really showed what they were capable of. A-Money is a sub for Cosmic in the Pro League. Doesn't mean he's a member of Cosmic or that's a normal full-time role, but since he doesn't play for any other Pro League team, he could sign as a sub for any other team. There's been a lot of demand for a solid 1v1 tournament, but I have a hard time doing it myself. I tried doing one, which worked out okay, but I have so much else on my plate that it makes it difficult. I'd love to do it through RLC, but nothing yet at the moment. What do I think about the new update? I think the new update is going to be great. I like the approach to competitive. I think the idea of having placement matches instead of having to start at ground floor and win your way up is a much better way to go about things. Taking out the points for wins and losses is another great idea. It helps to discourage... It helps hurt... Like, it doesn't feel like you're losing so much ground when you lose a game and gaining so little when you win, which is what the current season is like. So, I'm glad to see that. I think the new competitive mode in the game will be great. Plus, it's going to be adding Snow Day to the private match list, and that's important for me for obvious reasons. So, looking forward to that. In my opinion, what team would benefit most from roster changes? I don't know if there's a team that would benefit from roster changes necessarily, and just more from needing to work out the teamwork and communication that they have on their existing team. Like, you can look at SK, and they underwent, obviously, a very blatant roster change when Yemen left the team. That left them with Jazer, X3MW, and Dedu. Three very, very skilled players. But they've had a rough time lately since that happened. They just need to work out their teamwork. They need to work out their team situation. And then they'll go back to being a very premier team. So I don't know about roster changes necessarily, just trying to fix any issues you're currently having. The teams that do best are the teams that work together as a cohesive unit, consistently. So. Do I think Merc is the car to go in the pro scene? Don't know about that. It's not terrible, but there's a reason a lot of pros use other cars. No, it's good. It's the whole thing it's good. Hard to show on this, but yeah, I like it. It came out. The shirt came out great, so I'm glad I did it. It took a while to come in, but I'm glad. Are you talking about the Merc meta again? That I haven't yet seen as a meta? I don't think it can... I mean, it's a strategy. Until it becomes a more permanent thing, it's probably not so much a meta. But, alright. Well, I mean, yeah, if you forced a roster change, you could have some very interesting results. I don't think any teams need it right now, but... What is in place for RP now? Oh, the points? I guess there's no point system, it's just... It bases it off of your actual skill, and the better you do, the more likely you are to promote to a future league. Like, you'll play 10 placement games, and that will determine where you currently sit in terms of competitive scene, what your ranking will be. And then the better you do, the further you move up, but there's no, like, obvious you've earned this X amount of points or lost this amount of points. So it's probably a little bit better to just keep going so you don't feel so like you're losing so much progress when you lose a game. Thoughts on Knott's lackluster showing during RLC? I'm a little surprised. I'm very surprised, actually. You know, I didn't expect them to take the full sets off of Cosmic or Kings of Urban necessarily. The Cosmic performance was definitely more lopsided than I expected, but the fact they lost the set to failure to launch was very surprising. So I don't know what their holdup is right now, what their issue is, but hopefully they can come back and get back into their usual form as a third place team in NA. Well, just kind of talked about the ranking system, but just to reiterate, I think it's great. I like the new ranking system. I like the approach they're having. I like the new names for the ranks, and I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's very good. When will I get Yemen play? I don't even know if Yemen wants to play. He's here, but it's not I'm not preventing anybody from playing in anything. What would I like to see in Rocket League eSports? More and bigger. That's really it. I want to see more events, bigger prize pools, more viewers, and just bigger events in general. You know, ultimately a LAN. LAN events is kind of the goal right now. And then making those LAN events bigger. So, I'm hoping. I totally ignored your perfect question because I have no answer to your perfect question. I mean, obviously my concern about the new ranking season is going to come down to how well it's executed. On paper, it seems okay, but execution is the problem now. So we'll see how that goes. No, I think it's just your division that you can see. Well, thank you for the compliment. I have cast other games before. I used to cast many years ago StarCraft 2. I did some casting in there. I wasn't great at it, but that was my first foray into shoutcasting. Then I went into shoutcasting Hearthstone, and dare I say I was probably one of, if not the first person to shoutcast Hearthstone. And I did that all on YouTube. But it ultimately, I don't know, I kind of lost the insight, or not the insight, but I lost the desire to continue casting and playing the game, and fell out of favor there. And I was gone for a while, and then came back to do Rocket League when I discovered it. And here we are, ever since. What was my favorite moment in Las Vegas? As much as I really liked getting married, it was very stressful. Because, I don't know if I ever told this story. I don't know if I did. So, I obviously, as some of you may know, got married in Las Vegas this past October. When we traveled, like I live in the East Coast right now, and when we traveled there, I packed my suit and all my stuff, had everything with me, and the day that I was getting dressed and getting ready, had a lot of time to spare, so I was just going to take my time, slowly get ready, look great. I had forgotten my dress shirt, my white dress shirt. For some reason, I thought it was packed with the suit in on the same hanger, but it wasn't. It was on a separate hanger. I missed it completely, and I left it behind in Rhode Island. So I was here very little time between when I discovered that to when my wedding was about to take place. I had to desperately try to find a place nearby that sold white dress shirts. So I had to run to the Mandalay Bay, because I was staying at Luxor. Run to Mandalay Bay. Finally found a place that had the shirts in my size. Dropped like $150, which I did not want to spend on a shirt that I didn't even really like, but I needed, so that I could come back, get dressed, and then rush to the venue. So it was I loved getting married. I thought it was wonderful, but man, was it stressful. Other than that, I really enjoyed just kind of drinking at the pool, getting drunk in the beautiful sun, and the scenery was nice. So that was good. And yeah, the lap dances weren't too bad either. Anywho. I was never Legend in Hearthstone because I really didn't play too much when Legend became a thing. I still don't really play too much now. Alright. Trying to make sure I'm all caught up here. Looks like a lot of talk about joining console and PC forces. Don't know if it'll happen though. It seems like the pro scene is pretty firmly in the PC Steam bracket. I mean, we'll have to see how it looks. You know, if they have some kind of indicator when it looks like you're getting close to promotion, or if they just kind of leave it in the air. I think a lot of scenes are kind of like that. Hi, Marky. Will I stream CSGO? I have before. I haven't played in a while. Maybe I'll do that tonight. Maybe we'll do some Counter-Strike tonight. We'll make it part of our lineup. I don't know. We shall see. They gotta do this now, don't they? Of course. Anyway. Do you think map choosing in ranked would be a good feature? I think ultimately it will be. But for now, there's not enough maps to really justify it, so I don't think you need to like pick or ban any maps in ranked at the moment. Ten duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? Probably the duck-sized horses. There's only 10 of them, but I think a duck-sized horse would, or a horse-sized duck would fuck my shit right up. Hey, Godlight. Yeah, Marky, you are a mean duck game player. Alright, I would like maps that I'd like to see in the game. I don't know of any specific types. I know there's a lot of interest, and I think it would be cool to have maps where the goal is elevated off of ground level, so you have to pop it up and try to knock it in that way. That would be a good map style. I'd like to see some that are more dramatically non-standard, like Galleon was, for example. Something that has like obstacles in the field and requires you to do a lot more than just, you know, still have the same basic field shape. So, you know, that's what I'd like to see. But, and of course, Cosmic. Because I think if I don't say Cosmic, Gibbs will get mad at me. So we'll say Cosmic. Well, you know, that's why it's going to be like one of those... I don't know. I guess you're right. So I don't know if they'll do it. But I just think something like that would be great for some of the, you know, higher level players, or the players that know how to elevate the ball. But it is a good point. You know, a lot of players, especially at the low level, will not be able to play on it at all. Because they just will not be able to do it. I'd like to see it when there's still a lot of different options there. Just so there's variety. You can have maps that are good for some players, maps that are good for others. You know, I don't know, a nice little bit of variety I think would be nice. In general. Alright. Do I think I can take Mike and Mark in and fight? No, probably not. Okay. Yeah, there's some interesting ideas. How tall am I? I'm about 6 feet. Alright, well, hopefully it doesn't come to that. Alright, in any event, I think I've caught up on everything. Well. A very interesting discussion going on right now. Well, in any event, probably going to wrap up here in just a bit. But let's take another look at next week's schedule in the Pro League, just in case you missed it earlier. There are your teams that are playing. MyXMG taking on Flipside Tactics. SK versus Spectral. Noble taking on Crown and Jewels. On the NA side, Nexus goes up against Kings of Urban. Apollo going up against Not. And Orange Creamsicle takes on Failure to Launch. I can't really give MVPs because I haven't been able to see all of the games yet. I was out of the house basically all day yesterday. So I'm still trying to get caught up on everything. If at the first Rocket League LAN you were paid $10,000 to fight Kronovi in a bare-chested boxing match, would you do it? Sure. I'd do it. I'd rock Kronovi's nose like butterbean. But yeah. Anyway, so these are a pretty solid set of matches for next week, and again, this takes place on Sunday. Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Rocket League Central. So other than that, also Saturday, a couple of events worth tuning in for are going to be Gfinity Invitational. The Gfinity Invitational takes place Saturday at noon Eastern, 5 GMT. And then there's also Rocket League, which will take place at 5 Eastern. So be sure you tune in for that. But with that all being said, there is your final schedule. I'm going to wrap things up, though, for now. So we'll leave this on the screen so you know what to expect on Sunday. Big set of games, regular season, hitting the halfway point. So it's going to start to shape up and see which teams can make it through to the playoffs. And if we see a changing of the guard in either division at number 1. Because we know both Flipside and Crown and Jewels are very close to one another. We also know that Kings of Urban and Cosmic are very close. Cosmic, though, has the week off, so it could be a chance for Kings to thrust themselves into first place. But with that being said, I will wrap up now. I'll take a look at whatever that link is off stream. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the subscriptions and the follows, of course. And I will see you all perhaps later on tonight. And tomorrow I think we're doing another round of the D&D stuff on Seismic's channel. So that should be fun. But in any event, thank you all again. Thanks for all the questions, being a part of this event, and I will see you wonderful people next time.